Hi, I coordinate and collaborate with a global consortium of people who claim to be research scientists and operators that work to make the world a better place. And they have told me that warring, more violent or oppressive countries like Russia, North Korea, Iran, and similar have more prevalence of masochists and sadists in them. And that is what is part of what is causing. They call it a masochist vibe. I'll get into that a little bit more. That is causing these wars, these violence, the oppression. They don't like things being good for them. They get bored with peace and tranquility. And these research scientists say it should be classified, and these are their words, I'm quoting them. These are not my words. I would not use these terms, but they say it should be classified as a form of stupid. And that's a quote. But I would say maybe mental illness or antisocial behavior or anti-self behavior. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, and the psychology isn't really all that important to me. I'll get what's important to me is you cannot have world peace. They like things to be bad for them, or they like to dominate other people and take from others. They say masochists, it's asymmetric giving, like they give everything and get nothing back and like it. And sadists are just takers, and 80 to 99% of the time are men. Not always, but the bulk of them are. But increasingly are women. So I mentioned that you can't have world peace or harmony with any significant amount of sadists or masochists involved. They think people who like peace, harmony, simple life, tranquil living, those sort of things, they see it as weak. MAGA comes to mind in terms of people who say that. The people who are sort of more giving, want those peaceful ways to live, are what we call givers or true givers, truly reasonable people, truly verifiably healthy human focused people. And we're okay living in beautiful, wonderful environments with no challenges. We like to challenge ourselves, but not necessarily anything that harms anyone. We challenge ourselves to make things better or an optimal thinking person or mind. This manifests itself, and these research scientists told me to say this. These are just, a couple points for this short video, but manifests itself in truly believing and thinking, or even worse, feeling no pain, no gain sort of mentality is a legitimate, valid way to do things. True givers, true reasonable people, truly verifiably healthy human focused people don't usually say that. And they say it is driven by a need to thrive. So both the giver wants a tranquil way to live or a peaceful, harmonious way to live because they want to thrive. And so does the masochists or sadists. They want to thrive as well. So they must take or give asymmetrically or more to someone else than they get. And they enjoy that. They get a psychological lift from that. It doesn't always have to be sexual in nature, but it can for sure. And giving people, truly reasonable people, and no MAGA people usually, and truly verifiably healthy human focused people must feel nested or have adequate resources and the situation, the entire context within which to live, to feel good about having children. So MAGA, religious people who escape into delusion or imagined world that is they're saved and the world's going to be okay because God's saved them and guiding people, whatever your magic is. And in even like astrology, palm reading, magical Zen states of meditation also have these problems because they're escaping. And most of that, I'll get into another video on this, is we call it brain folly, where you do things that are societally acceptable or as normal and not crazy with a C, as in not mentally ill, but we call it crazy with a K. It's hence the part of the name of this YouTube channel. And the 2K comes from, well, it's two sections. 10,000 years ago is where masochism, the slave, and slave owners, the takers, almost invariably, but not totally, men, enslaved people, impregnated them, and in order to sort of raise that child to a point where that child turned into adult and sexual maturity, I'm talking about evolution, and they were better off or outperformed, those sex slaves outperformed when they were pregnant having those children, and could even conceive a child or get whatever you need in order to your biology to give you a child, had to have some type of masochist vibe. Well, they didn't have to, but they were better off if they did. And the sadist got the taker, had more children if he accumulated more slaves. So that became a huge thing. And fast forward to 2,000 years, it started to all unravel a little bit. So they started organizing people and coming up with fantasy world, pick your religion, and organizing formal organization where there's hierarchy, which is a dominating way to live. Somebody's in charge of you. You must feel better being subjugated or being a constituent of some leader and be okay with that sort of dynamic. Well, who is? Sadists feel better in charge and dominating people or taking from people or taking people literally. And masochists feel better being the subjects of being somebody's pawn, being the sort of the worker bee, right? No pain, no gain, toiling away and feeling okay about it. The truly reasonable people, who are rarer and more rare every generation, and it's an emergent situation, apparently, we don't like either. We feel uncomfortable, so we don't really fit really well in society. You know, I've been a leader in companies and things, but there's always this sense of I need to empower the people below me to sort of rise up and, do it themselves and teach them to be leaders as well. And a slight to very uncomfortable feeling when you are in that leadership position, and also an uncomfortable feeling when you are the subject or the worker bee or the subordinate or the middle manager of those organizations or hierarchies. So if you know what evolution is, you can see how this is becoming prevalent. And, one of the biggest takers or worst takers in the world, two of them, Nile of the Nine Hostages, I can't say his last name, and then Genghis Khan. They are warlords, known mass murderers, and they have the most prevalent genetics in the human genome globally. Think about that. So we are literally evolving. Now I'm told not permanent in the human species, but it's getting close, and it's an emergent situation. And these research scientists and operators have a strategy called PFAX, a People Focus Adaptive Truly Comprehensive Tactical Strategy, of which Confluence Infinite International is a part of. We do sort of the public-facing positive things that are totally nonviolent and lawful and that sort of thing. Not that the rest is unlawful, just we are lawful. And they tell me that all of that, the sadomasochists or masochists and sadists, that is driven through learned behavior and biological traits or genes or genetics. So both biologically and societally and socially. And if we do nothing, they say it's not going to be that long before humans completely implode. And doing the opposite of that, kind of like what we're doing now, destroys the environment, makes your life a rat race. Not what we're doing, but how the world operates now, destroys your life or makes your life a rat race, kind of enslaves you at work. Like you can't stop working. If you wanted to stop working, your life, you would underperform. You couldn't afford life. It would be quite a detriment. So it's functional slavery if you work for somebody. I never thought about it like that until these research scientists and operators brought this to me. But anyway, the givers don't like it, so they're having less children. And the takers and masochists, they like it, so they're having lots of children. And then the escapers or brain folly people are escaping it, so they're having lots of children. So what are we breeding here? Right? How is society evolving? That's why, part of why, not the true problem, and we shouldn't go out and harm any of these people. We need to prove there's a different way to live that is based on giving and results in astoundingly better results, not just for givers, but for all. Thank you.